Hare Krishna. So today we are going to complete chapter 3 in as best possible way we can to understand Karma Yoga. Om Jnanam Timirandasya Jnanam Jalashalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So chapter 3 Karma Yoga is very interesting. Every shloka of Srimad Bhagavad Gita is very important. Every chapter is very important. But Karma Yoga is carrying a special importance in our life because it deals with day-to-day activities. Karma. It's a very commonly used word but very difficultly understood in its actual meaning. What is karma? Karma is any kind of activity which is performed for doing any activity concerning to yourself or to somebody else or to the Lordship. So karma has to be understood in a proper manner to become a karma yogi. Here this chapter is started by Arjuna by asking a question to Krishna. Arjuna said, O Janardana, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? Then he is asking again, my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. This is the situation of Arjuna and of all of us. We do pass by all these phases where we really don't understand. What shall I do? Where shall I go? Which path to be chosen? Even sometimes the instructions given by Guru or senior devotees seems to be equivocal. They seems to be same. But then it's on us to pick up the right thing based on time, place and circumstances. Same way Arjuna is seeking this question, asking help from Lord Shri Krishna. Then Krishna is giving answer and telling, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self, some by inclined toward the understanding by empirical philosophical speculation and others by devotional service. So it's a way to understand karma, life, by understanding on a level of philosophy or by understanding it on the way of spiritualism or bhakti yoga, which seems to be very easy nowadays because we are not that way having a long life or a healthy body that we can prolong things for long. So for the Kali Yuga people, everything is very short-lived. Our age is less, our Shakti is less, and in this world everything is a play of energy and time. You can spend unlimited energy if you have to explore something, but then it will be a waste of time because in Kali Yuga time and energy is limited. So it's always the best way to follow the path which has been already created by somebody who is excel in that field. No need to do hit and trial. So that is why we are following Srila Prabhupada and reading Srimad Bhagavad Gita and trying to understand what shall be done in this kind of situation where we get bewildered. So all these questions seems to be like I am asking or we are asking to Krishna because we get bewildered very often. Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So Krishna is not telling us to just run away to the Himalayas, leave all work and you will be perfect. No. Rather, he is telling everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the mode of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. It may be possible you think you are going to refrain yourself from everything and there will be no karma, nothing is going to bind me. But it's again something which is very foolish. Here Krishna is telling you can't even live for a moment without doing a karma. That karma cannot be based on your karmendriya. That can be a mental work. That can be on the level of mind, but you are creating something. You are binding yourself with the karmas. As I always say, the rope is different. It's going to tie you down with a rope of copper, silver or gold unless you understand how to go away with everything. Even you are performing everything but you are not getting anything in the form of karma. Akarma, vikarma, all these things will be discussed by another speaker in coming chapter 4, 5 and 6. Coming back here, then Krishna is telling one who refrains the sense of action but whose mind dwells on sense gratification is also a person who is pretending to be a person who has given up everything. Sometimes we see people say, oh, I have given up everything, I am in a renounced order of life. But if the mind is always thinking of sense gratification, outwardly we are wearing a lion's color, saffron, then we are a pretender. We are fooling ourselves and to the society. We have to be careful with this kind of people. On the other hand, Krishna is telling those who try to act sincerely and always control their activities and try to follow the karma yoga, they are in superior condition. They are better than those pretenders. Perform your prescribed duty. For doing so, it is better to work rather than refraining yourself. So Krishna is very much into the favor of doing your karma rather than running away from it, saying anything on the name of spirituality. It's not that way acceptable. Now from shloka 9 to 12, it's all about the yagna. Krishna is telling work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage. So yajna must be done for the pleasure of Krishna, for the pleasure of Vishnu. Everything. Your cooking can also become a yajna because you are cooking it for the pleasure of the Lordship. Your study, your speaking skills, your painting, your way of creating things, everything can be converted into yajna if it is for the satisfaction of Krishna, if it's for the higher purpose. If it's just directed toward your own sense gratification, then it's gonna bind you. The best way in this Kali Yuga is Sankirtan Yagna, that Srila Prabhupada has mentioned here so beautifully, that doing different kind of yagnas are being mentioned in the Shastras. It's there. But are we able to do that? It's too expensive, too time consuming. We need very perfect speaking people for that, because the pronunciation for the shlokas are very much important. But in the Kali Yuga, we don't even speak properly. Our tongue is giving us trouble to even in doing recitation of shlokas. So this way also it's very difficult to perform yagna. But Sankirtan Yagna, chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, is the right thing for this Kali Yuga. Then Krishna is telling Ahara Shuddhi. Srila Prabhupada is explaining in Shloka 11 that Ahara Suddhi is very much important. Why? Because the way you're gonna eat, the way you're gonna think, the way you're gonna think, you're gonna act, and that will reflect in the society. If somebody is having a sort of food control, definitely he's gonna act in a different manner. If there will be some of the parties or a feast sort of, and the person is taking very less quantity of food and very limited item, that person is not going to go there because this will not serve his purpose. Ahar Shuddhi basically here referring toward which is being offered to Krishna. So when we offer anything to Krishna, it has to be freshly cooked. It should be sattvic, no onion, garlic, no meat, nothing like that. So when you do all these things in sattvic manner, you get nourish not only your body but your brain tissues, but your soul. So Ahar Suddhi is also very much important, and that is very easily possible when you follow devotional service, because you have to eat anything and everything after offering to Krishna. Then in in Shloka 12, it's been mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada, Panch Mahayagna. It's very important. Why so? Because when we say yagna, people only think a kind of homa. Swaha, Ahuti giving, we are just talking about that. That is there. Beside that, there are few yagnas which have been mentioned, which has to be performed, are Shastra Yagna, Pitra Yagna, Bhut Yagna, Manushya Yagna and Dev Yagna. What are these? These are the yagna, if you perform them, the cycle of the ecosystem, the cycle of human and other species get balanced. Shastra Yagna means you have to read Shastras on regular basis and give knowledge to others. When we read Bhagavad Gita on daily basis, something or the other get clicked in our mind and we try to act in that way. So Shastra reading is very important on regular basis. Then Pitra Yagna is like giving the Tarpana, offering obligation to the forefathers by giving it away in water. So when you are giving something away in the water, the aquatics are also getting their feed. So unknowingly you are also helping in their ecosystem by feeding them. So Pitra Tarpan will lead to feeding the aquatics. Then the Dev Yagna, offering food to the Devi Devta Krishna and then giving it away to the people, those who are serving. So this way you are serving the Vaishnavas, you are serving the Brahmanas. Then it comes the Bhut Yagya. Bhut Yagya means giving everything to the lower species like ant, crow, cow. Cow is not the lower species, she is the mother of Krishna, mother of all of us, but then giving away, that is also been mentioned in the Shastra. That is why Srila Prabhupada has mentioned Panch Mahayagna. So all of these yagnas has to be performed on regular basis, giving away something to the ant, something to the crow, to the dogs, to the cow, and then the Manushya Yagna, Atiti Yagna, they are symbolic. If somebody comes to your house or somebody in need of something, it's not just food to give away, clothing, knowledge, right kind of education, right kind of information, these all come into this yagna. Understand it in that way. If every one of us giving every day some help or the other to all these mentioned aquatic, thalchar, jalchar, so I think the world will be a very beautiful place to live. Unknowingly, every day we have to perform this. So nobody will suffer. That is why the yagnas are very much important, and everything should be directed by saying that we are offering this for the pleasure of the Lordship. Then the demigods. Demigods, in further in the shlokas it will come. Even the demigods are not independent, they are working for Krishna, and They are the body parts of Krishna. And those who are not offering all these yagnas, or not offering it to the Lordship, just eating for their sense gratification, they are eating only sin. So we have to offer these things, then only we must take as a Mahaprasad. Now the 14th shloka, production of the grain, Mother Nature. Mother Nature, Prakriti, reciprocate with us only when the yagnas are being performed in the right manner. She gets happy, she gives us rain, and not only rain, rain in the right quantity. Nowadays we are suffering because of no rain or heavy rain. So everything is dependent on our karmas, not we can't keep on blaming others. So we should not pollute the Mother Nature. Coming forth, 15 shloka, 16, and all further, they are talking about how this yagna help us in our cycle and cycle of others in our ecosystem. That has to be balanced. From 17th to 28th, we are moving in the same direction, and it's been talk about Atmaram, the one who takes pleasure in itself, whose human life is in oneself, in self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully situated. For him there is no duty. It's been said for Krishna. For us, we have to perform our duty. Further, Krishna will also tell that even I have no duty, then also I am performing it on regular basis. Why? Because if Krishna will not do his duty, we will follow him and we will get a excuse. So it's mentioned here, Yadyacharati Shreshtasya Devetaro Jana Saha Yad Pramanam Kurute Lokas Tanu Vartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he set by exemplary act, all the world pursues that. So Krishna is doing his duty so that we also continue our endeavors to evolve ourselves from lower to the higher understanding of this world, higher understanding of our karma, higher understanding of bhakti yoga. So Krishna is telling in 22nd verse, no running away from your prescribed duties. And he is telling in 23rd, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. So no running away. We have to perform our karmas. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to the results, the learned may similarly act but without attachment for the sake of leading people to the right path. Everybody is too much attached to the karma. Even before performing the karma, they start speculating the result in their mind. That is the scenario been created by the media, by the paper, by the peers, by the society, that what will you get. So this norm is very much against the norms of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, that you perform your duty but not getting attached to the result. That is one of the most beautiful thing I always mention. The biggest liberation is to get liberation from your karmas, and that is only possible when you do your deeds and offer it to Krishna, and you are not worried about the result of your karma, the fruit of your action. That is the biggest freedom. Don't stop ignorant people from performing their duties, rather direct them toward Krishna. Okay, you like eating food, welcome to our temple, have a lot of prasadam, we will serve you, so they will be happy. Okay, you like paintings, you create beautiful things, let us create something beautiful for our temple. So this way you are not stopping them. Oh, you are a painter, you fall into the category of a Shudra, you should stay away. No. ISKCON is the only organization who welcome everybody with open arms. Most welcome. Your presence is missed here because you are part and parcel of Krishna. So you can always offer your service for the pleasure of the Lordship. Then three modes of material nature binds us, we become egoistic, false ego, and we act in the manner that we are the only one who are the proprietor of everything. Now, the one whose knowledge is absolute, he can understand or differentiate between the work in devotion and work for the fruitive results. So, we have to always work for devotion, direct all your energies, intelligence toward Krishna and keep on doing your work. There is no disturbance. Same way you have to cook, same way you have to live, only you have to make Krishna as a center of your life. Then furthermore, now from 31st shloka, Lord Shri Krishna is telling more precisely what need to be done. Execute your duties with proper faith and without envy. Then only you can go away from all kind of bondages. And opposite of that, the people in a material world, they are envious of each and every person. Even you're standing, they don't know you, they become envy just of your presence. This is the world we are living, and we are just thinking everything will be all right. We have to first understand that enviousness is very much rooted in each and every person because of unwanted competition created by the people and the society. There is no competition. Everybody is unique and favorite of Krishna. Then comes the regulation part. We have to perform, discharge our duties, but then have to create the balance. We have to create the balance in the sense it's not going to disturb our daily routine and not of the others. A devotee is very smart person. The way he performs the karma yoga, it seems to be very normal for the others, but he knows internally he is directing everything to Lord Krishna. In 37 shloka, Shri Krishna, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Kama esha, Krodha esha, Rajo guna samadbhuva, Mahashano mahapapma vidiye, Nami verinam, desire for lust. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is the lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is of all devouring sinful enemy in the world. So desire or lust. Desire gets converted into lust in due course of time when you keep on meditating on that particular sense object. Now, desire, how to control them? We even desire to serve Krishna, we even desire to become a better devotee. There is no end to desire. I personally think we cannot ever stop desiring, rather we can turn them toward the right direction. That is by the help of associating with the right mindset of devotees, associating with right shastric knowledge and with the direction of guru and senior devotees. Lust is everywhere, desire is everywhere, only the degree varies. Some may be having this much but they have. I may be having this much but I have. We have to work out on our level and always pray to Krishna, because only Guru and Krishna can take us out of this. Otherwise, this cycle will be continued life after life. It is said in Manusmriti that lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment, such as fire is never extinguished by a constant supply of fuel. Some people say, oh, you first satisfy, then we will think about. It's a never satisfying thing. You have to create a balance. Balance is very much required in doing your service on regular basis, and also regulation in eating, sleeping, mating, everything has to be done on a regulated way, not on a regular way, rather regulated way. Now, in the 48th verse, the enemy has captured different strategic positions in the body of conditioned soul, and therefore Lord Krishna is giving hints of that places, so that one who wants to conquer the enemy may know where he is found. So what are these places? The senses, the mind, the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. So where this enemy is found? The senses, the mind and the intelligence. So how to control? Only by keeping a checklist, by creating a balance with your senses, with your mind and with your intelligence. You can always keep a track on where am I heading, what am I doing. Beside that, it's not possible just to randomly do something and achieve the highest purpose of life. You cannot, because they are so powerful. These enemies, this lust, greed, enviousness is all around us. It's so powerful, and they create different kind of lust and desires in us. Now coming back on to this desire, what you can easily digest. Desire what you can easily digest. Let's understand this with an example of a food item. I may order something very unique sort of, but I may not be able to digest that. It will lead me a different sort of problem. I will think, why I ordered this food stuff, I am into a trouble, my stomach is paining, it's giving me a cough, it's giving me anxiety, I am not able to sleep. Same way desire. Always remember, desire what you can really bear, not just something that is too heavy or too insane. And the truth is that every one of us precisely get what we ever desired, because that comes in our life sooner or later, but with a twist. So when you're desiring, always remember, Krishna gonna give me sooner or later. Am I be able to handle that? That is why we take birth also. Unfulfilled desires brings us back here to let you enjoy this. You desire for this. Last birth, you are not having that kind of pious karmas where you can enjoy this post position, opulence or body enjoyment. But now you are born again by collecting all the pious karmas of all your past life. Now you enjoy. So it's coming to you, but with a twist. I desired in my last 100th birth of that, but now I'm getting after 100th birth now. So always desire for the service of Krishna. Always desire for serving those who are serving Krishna, and always desire to be close to Krishna. One desire can take you away from Krishna. So always be very careful. Unnecessary hearing. Unnecessary hearing should also be warded, because sometimes we are hearing too much from here and there, and we land into one more cycle of desire and its unfulfilled wrath, and taking it too deep into our subconscious mind and always contemplating. Then this universe, Krishna, always come to give us that. So hearing is all sense object has to be given a balanced approach. I just wanted to share a short story. I forgot the name of the writer, but I was reading this book few years back. Somehow I got related this in this chapter. So this was a very famous writer approached by a very good friend of his, and he said, yesterday we had a nice talk, and one of your best friend was talking about you, and I wanted to tell you what he was telling about you. So the writer said, okay, I will only hear in 3 conditions. Tell me if it's going to help in my current work. Second, tell me immediately if it's going to show me the better and new way of life. Third, tell me instantly if it helps someone. Otherwise, don't even open your mouth. That is Prajalpa. We all get, part of it. But if it is not serving any of the purpose I mentioned above, I don't want to hear it. Let's break it down to more simple, so that even a new listener can understand it, by saying do not hear too much, because you get even unknown desires enter into you. This thing was not introduced to me but because I'm hearing something insane, now I'm also getting some sort of desires. Then this desire in due course of time will convert into lust, and then this cycle again will start. So we have to really very careful what we hear, what we see, what we eat. We have to be very careful with whom we associate. Everything is very important. Shloka 41st. Now we have found the enemy and its sitting places. Now how are we going to curb it? By controlling our senses, by regulating our senses. In Shloka 42, Krishna is telling the working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. Now what to do? Feed your soul. Don't just feed your senses. Feed your soul. And what is the food for soul? Chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, reading of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, eating only prasadam, associating with devotees, morning program. These are the food for soul. Let's feed our soul rather than feeding our mouth with delicacies. Last shloka. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should study the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence in Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. So only with the help of Guru and Krishna we can subdue this enemy lust which is sitting on senses, intelligence and mind. By the strength of Krishna consciousness, one can control these material senses, the mind and the intelligence. He must be trained in Krishna consciousness to develop higher intelligence. Otherwise, the cycle of karma can never come to end. The karma can take us close to Krishna and can take us away from Krishna. The choice is ours. Everything has to come to Krishna, like Sarva Dharmanu Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja. So Krishna is telling, leave every kind of prescribed duties, even though he is telling you have to follow. But at the end, when you will proceed further in coming chapter, he will tell Sarva Dharmanu Parityajya. You have to leave everything aside, surrender onto Krishna and don't be afraid because he is going to take care of us. That is assured. Hare Krishna.